Hi, my name is Nathan. You're watching Nice at Dice, and today I'm taking a look at a currently unpublished game coming to crowdfunding soon called Witchbound. Witchbound is a unique tabletop experience in which you play the role of a young girl. She's vacationing at her grandmother's house on this island and stumbles into a magical adventure. All right, it feels a little bit to me sort of like The Legend of Zelda, sort of like a Miyazaki film, somewhere in that realm of things. But it's a really unique tabletop experience. And basically what you're going to be doing, it's one, maybe two players if you kind of cooperate and collaborate on what actions to take, right? You could play it that way. But it's primarily a one-player game. And you're going to be going through these different scenes in a like a map book, and then you're going to be interacting with things, objects and people in those scenes in various ways, and you're going to be playing through a narrative as you go, and that's basically how it is. I'm going to go into more detail about how all that works, but just to give you the idea up front that it's a really interesting game. It's got a lot of unique mechanisms and properties to it. I think it's really exciting, so I'm excited to talk to you about it today. We're going to go over to the table. I'm going to walk you through this. As we do, keep in mind this is basically a prototype of a demo of the game that was provided to me by the publisher. So it is a prototype, meaning this is not like finished quality components that I'm going to be showing you. And it's also just a demo. So the final product is going to have a lot more content in it. It's going to be a lot more detailed and a lot more fleshed out. This is just very narrowly focused on the basics so that you can kind of get a feel for what this game is and how it works. All right, so let's take a look at Witchbound. Okay, so with the demo, you have a rule sheet, which is basically 2 sheets of rules. Pretty simple. I'm not going to walk you through all of that. We're going to explain most of it as we go. You're also going to get a character sheet. I think in the final product, this would probably be 2 sides of the same sheet. I don't know, but in any case, you have 2 sides of a character sheet. You're going to have your hearts, which is like your health. You have your focus, which is a resource you spend to do some more difficult things. You have some basic actions you can always do. You're going to learn spells. You're going to pick up equipment. You have a slingshot. That's your primary weapon. You can have different types of ammo for that slingshot. You're going to collect coins, which you can spend to buy items. You're going to pick up potions. There's going to be some key items you collect. And then there's going to be some ingredients that you collect, which you use to craft things like crafting potions, enchanting other items, etc. And then you have some various other items you're going to pick up. And one of the key things with items, the basic items, is that you're going to use these to interact with people or with encounters, etc. Right? So, for example, you might pick up some muffins from your granny, and then you can use those muffins. You can give those muffins to somebody else, and they might give you some information in exchange for that muffin, right? So you're always going to be looking at how to use these items with the people and things in the world to find some interesting interactions. Okay, on the back of your sheet, you're going to have some conversation prompts. These are going to be basically different topics that come up in the narrative, and then you can use these prompts to ask different NPCs about those topics. And then you're going to have stories and quests. And basically, stories are like kind of like larger overarching quests that you have. I shouldn't say quests because you have quests over here, but the stories are basically like larger overarching story arcs, and then the quests are like little snippets of like a mission you have to do that won't take very long, and it'll have some more immediate rewards, right? So these are like kind of like bigger missions, your main mission, and these are like smaller missions, right? You can look at it that way. And then you have this lunar cycle. And this is basically a way to track the in-story days as they pass. And there's some small mechanical element to it, but mainly it's a time track to track how much time is passing in the story. All right, so you're going to have this, and you're going to be marking this up and, making notes on it and stuff as you play. And there'll be multiples of these in the game, and you'll be able to print out more as you need them. So there's that. Then we have this, and this is basically the storybook, and it has a bunch of entries. All of the entries are numbered, and you're going to go to these different numbers to read what happens when you interact with different things. You're going to start off by reading this prologue, which is entry number 1, and it gives you a little bit of narrative about how, you know, the main character is having this dream, and it seems mysterious, and then she wakes up, and then basically it gives you the objective to find the source of the whispers that you're hearing in your dream, and then you're going to go right into the game. You do not want to look at every entry in the book. You know, you don't want to just browse through here and read whatever catches your eye. You want to only read the entries that the game directs you to read. Otherwise, you know, you're going to kind of throw yourself off. You're going to spoil things for yourself, all right? But that's basically what this is. Kind of reminds me of things like near and far, above and below, that sort of thing. But when we get into how exactly it works, you'll see it's a little bit more involved in that and really interesting. Then we have the map book. Each map is a scene, sort of like in an isometric view like this. We start out with you in the main character's bedroom, and then you'll see there's not really anything in there to interact with, although there will be in the finished game, but in the demo there's nothing really there to interact with. But you have an arrow pointing off to the side here that says M02, and if you notice in the corner here it says M01, so this is pointing you to map 02, which when we turn the page here, we'll find map 02 there, and we'll see that we've come downstairs to the main part of Granny's house. And we see we have Granny here, and it tells us that it is Granny, and it has the number 24 under it. So 24 is the number of Granny, and when we want to interact with Granny in any way, we're going to use that number 24. So the most basic way you can interact with things is to just investigate them. And as we look on here, we have these basic actions, and we see investigate has the number 1. So we're going to go in here, we're going to investigate Granny because she seems suspicious. Well, not really, but we're going to investigate Granny. So we're going to take the number 1 for investigate, and we're going to combine it, not add it, but combine it with her number, 24. So we're looking for 124. So we're going to move to entry 124, and it says, your grandmother is a short, stout lady who always keeps her silver hair in a bun and wears a white apron. No matter how old it gets or how messy she is, it never seems to get dirty. I'm assuming that's the apron and not the bun, right? So that's our description of Granny, all right? So now we know a little bit more about Granny. Let's say we want to talk to Granny. So over here, we have touch, which seems weird. We're not going to go around touching NPCs. That would be really rude and inappropriate. So instead what we're going to look for is our prompts. Prompts is how we interact with NPCs. And I haven't written it in here yet, but the rules explain that the first prompt that you get is basically the prompt hello. And that has the number 2. So we would look for it would say hello here, and it would have the number 2 there. So we would know that 2 is for saying hello. So now we're going to look for 224 because we want to say hello to Granny. So we're going to turn in here to 224, and it says, hello there, dear. Care for a fresh muffin? And it says gain item muffin, which would have the number 37. So we'd write in over here items, we'd write muffin, we'd write the number 37 in here. And so now we have that item. So she gives us that item. It says, if you have completed the quest Fresh Flowers, the interaction ends here. If not, continue reading. Well, we don't even know what that quest is, so we're going to continue reading. It says, I wonder if I might ask a small favor of you. Could you please bring me some fresh flowers for the guest rooms? They do add a nice bit of color. Here are a few coins if you need them. So it says, gain quest Fresh Flowers. So again, on the back of our character sheet, we're going to write in gain flowers. Or Fresh Flowers as the name of the quest. And then it says we gain some coins. So remember, we have a space up here to track coins. Coins are number 7, so we put a 7 in there. And we got 4 of them, so we mark 4 in the box here to know that we have 4 coins. All right? So that's our interaction with her. So, okay, so now we have a quest. We've got something to do. If we look around here a little bit more, though, we're going to notice that her number is very obvious, but there's a much less obvious number on this door over here. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the door has the number 50 on it. So we might say, okay, well, that's interesting. What's behind that door? So over here, One of our basic actions is touch. So we can use that to interact with anything that's not a person. And the number is 2. So let's see, 250. What happens if we go try to interact with that door? It tells us 250. It says you reach for the handle, but the door is locked and doesn't budge. Okay, so nothing to do there until we get something else to interact with that door. So we know we need to get some flowers, and we have another arrow here that points to MO3, so we can go out this door, and that'll take us to scene MO3, which just happens to be right here, MO3. So now we have this beautiful outdoor scene, which is the town square exterior. So we see here there's a MO2 that'll take us back into Granny's Inn. And we have some characters we can interact with. We have Carrie, she's number 45. We have Petal, she's number 38. We have Marin, she's number 33. And then if we look closely, we might find some other numbers scattered around, but I don't see any on this particular map, okay? But that's something that we might encounter on other occasions, is there might be some other numbers hidden around in the image, that things we can interact with. But let's start with what we've got here. So Petal, 38, she's standing next to a stand with some flowers, so she seems like a good person to talk to about getting flowers, right? Because that's our quest, to get some flowers. So Petal, 38. We could look at Petal by looking up 138, or we could talk to Petal by doing 238. Let's skip to the talking because we don't want to spend all day on this. So 238 tells us, "Hi, I have a most wondrous selection of flowers for sale. Care to take a look?" And then it tells us you can purchase any of the items below. Don't forget to reduce your coins accordingly. The items available are flowers, number 38, and it's 2 coins. We have 4 coins, so we'll just subtract 2 coins from that, and we'll pick up this flowers, number 38. So we would mark that over here, flowers number 38. But you know what? I'm kind of curious. What if we gave her the muffin instead of just spending the 2 coins on that? I don't know what will happen, so let's try it out. Our muffins, if we remember, were number 37. So let's try, her number is 38. Let's try 3738 and see what happens if we give her muffins. 3738. Let's see. 3738. It says, "Oh my, you are a kind spirit. I must repay you. Take these beautiful flowers. They will surely brighten your day as you have mine. I'm going to lose the muffin, and I'm going to gain the flowers." Okay, so I didn't actually have to buy the flowers from her. I just gave her a muffin and traded them for the flowers. Nice, and I get to keep my 2 coins. So now that I have flowers, which is number 38, I'm going to go follow this arrow here, MO2. We're going to go back to Granny, and I have the flowers, which are 38, and she's 24, so let's present the flowers to her. 38, 24. What happens then? All right, 38, 24. Says, "Thank you, dear. These are lovely. Lose item flowers." So I lost the flowers. It says, "If you have completed the quest Fresh Flowers, the interaction ends here. If not, continue reading." Well, we haven't finished it yet. So I appreciate you helping me with those. Complete quest Fresh Flowers. All right, now we've completed the quest. She says, "That said, I do have another ask of you before you run off. I've been hearing some sounds down in the cellar at night. I'm sure it's just pesky nibblers, but those steps are hard on my old legs. Perhaps you wouldn't mind going down there to figure out where they are coming from. Do be careful though, dear, as they like to bite." So I gained another quest, Nightly Noises, and I gained a key item, Cellar Key, which is number 12. So I would mark that under key items, put Cellar Key here, and the number 12 there. Okay, so now remember that door earlier that we tried to interact with, but it was locked? Let's try that number 12, and the door's number was 50, so we're going to look at 1250 in here. Let's see, right here. The key fits snugly into the lock, and the door opens, revealing a staircase leading down into a dimly lit room. Path discovered, M04. So now we can go to the scene M04, which is right here, M04. Now, on the middle of the bottom of this, we have this little triangle with the letter A, which means there's going to be an encounter in here. And we're going to look for the encounter letter A, and we're going to put it right in the middle of the board like that. And we can't, it says, "While active, you lose 1 heart each time you interact with anything in the scene other than this encounter." So we we could poke around and look at other stuff, but we want to take care of this encounter first. So the encounter number is 19. It'll change to 10 under the right circumstances, but we don't know what those circumstances are. So right now we're just dealing with the number 19. So what are we going to do with 19? All right, I mean, let's try 119 just to take a closer look at it. Remember, 1 is investigate, so we'll take a closer look at these nibblers and see what we find. 119, it tells us, the small furry creatures have large eyes and scurry around the floor, sniffing and occasionally rolling into a ball and bumping into things. As you stand there, several of them roll near your feet, stopping to attempt to bite you. Okay, so that gives us a little information about them, but it hasn't made any progress. Okay. So what else can we do to deal with these nibblers? Well, if I still had a muffin, maybe I could throw the muffin at them and see if that would distract them or something. But I used my muffin. I do have my slingshot, and again, the rule book would have told me to put in here for the slingshot some stones, or pebbles I think they're called, and they would have the number 3. So I could use the pebbles, try and shoot some pebbles at these things. So let's do that. So we would be using 3, and the number of these is 19. So we'd be using 319. Now, the slingshot has this little, this is called a focus symbol. So we have to either spend focus, which we start with 5, or we can use a die. These are called luck dice. And at the beginning of the game, we're going to have one of them. So we could spend 1 luck die to try and resolve this. Let's do that. Let's try and spend 1 luck die to resolve this. So we're going to roll this. Oh, we rolled a 4. So if you roll an even number, it doesn't do anything. We've spent this die, and it didn't do us any good. Okay, well, it was a nice try. So now we're going to have to spend focus if we want to resolve this. So let's do that. We've got 5 focus. We'll spend 1 of them to use our slingshot. The slingshot would have the number 3, so we're going to look at 319 because 19 is the number on the encounter. 319, let's see what that gets us. 319, it says you lose 1 pebble. All right, makes sense. It says the pebble hits one of the creatures and it squeals in pain before it runs off, but the others continue to bite you when they get close. You lose 1 heart. Ah, okay. Well, I'm not sure what to do now because he's still there. It doesn't say that the encounter goes away, and it just says that I lost 1 pebble and I lost a heart. So this is not a good situation. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to retreat from this situation. You can always retreat out of a scene. So we're going to do that. We'll retreat out of a scene to MO2, and that'll take us back here. And now we're going to say, okay, let's talk to Granny again, because we know that maybe Granny can help us out. So we're going to go to 24. She's going to say, hello there, dear. Care for a fresh muffin? She's going to give me a muffin. And then it says, if you've completed the quest, fresh flowers, the interaction ends here, which I have. So that's the end of the interaction. Now I have a muffin. Muffin's number 37. So now let's try going back through that door. We know we got to use our key item, and that's going to give us a new path, which will take us back to the cellar. And we're going to have this encounter there again to deal with. So now we have our muffin, which was 37. Let's try 3719 and see if throwing a muffin at these things does anything. 3719. I lose the muffin. The muffin hits the floor and the creatures swarm it, scrambling over each other to get at the food. Most of them seem momentarily distracted. The encounter reacts and changes to 10. So we saw that it could change to 10 here, but we didn't know how to make that happen. Now we know how to make it happen. So now it's a 10. Okay. All right. So now it's a 10. What can we do with that? Well, we still have some pebbles left. So now let's try shooting at them. 310. 310, lose 1 pebble. The pebble slams right into the huddled creatures, and with several squeals, they quickly scurry off. The encounter is defeated. Okay, the encounter is defeated. We're down 1 heart and 2 pebbles, and we had to backtrack to get another muffin, but we took care of it. So now we are down here in the cellar. So as we look around in the cellar, we're going to notice a few things, like, for example, we have this 98 right here written in on this crate. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there's a 98 there. So we might look at that to see what we find. We might go back upstairs and talk to Granny, let her know that it was nibblers in the cellar. That might complete the quest that we were on. She might have another quest for us. I don't know. We'll see. And that's where we're at. So I'm not going to show you too much more. There's a little bit more to the demo. But as you can see, this 98 is probably going to lead us to something else. And back here, there were a couple of people we didn't talk to at all on this page. So more stuff to do, more things to investigate. And, right, so that's that. And as you can see, there's quite a lot here. You can look at everything. You can talk to everyone. You can interact with every number you see on a map. You can use the items you pick up to try and, right, you could go around and try giving a muffin to every person in the village to see what happens when you offer them a muffin, right? So lots of things you can do, and a big part of this game is that experimentation of trying to figure out, well, how do I use the things available to me to resolve the encounters and situations that I'm coming up against. So that gives you an overview of how the game works. Let's go back up top and I'll give you some thoughts. All right, so that is Witchbound. That is the demo, and it's, again, just a prototype. So keep in mind, one, the final quality of everything is going to be better than what you saw there, and also there's going to be a lot more to it. I had the opportunity to play through kind of like the first chapter of the game with everything in it, and there is a lot more to the game. There's a lot more of those hidden numbers and things that are just different things on the map you can interact with. A lot more characters. You can explore, you know, more of the town, more characters there in the town to interact with, more things to see. And the game is really interesting and very involved. So my favorite thing about this game is the artwork is beautiful. The narrative is front and center. The mechanisms of the game are pretty simple and straightforward. There's a few nuances with things like having to spend focus or spending your luck dice to do different things. There's that time track that as you play the game, you're going to get to a point where you're running out of your resources. You're losing hearts and focus. And so you have to go rest to recover those, and that advances the timeline. And so different things might happen depending on the timeline, right? So you might get quests that have that are time sensitive. You got to complete the quests within a certain number of days, or, you know, there's some alternative happens. And then you also will unlock other mechanisms as you go. For example, you'll meet someone who will teach you how to use ingredients, how to collect ingredients, how to use them to make potions and enchant items and other things like that. So there's a whole crafting element to the game there. You can craft things and then sell them at the shop. So there's a bit of an economic element there, but it's not an economic game. That's just a little small element of it. And you saw how you go down into that cellar and you deal with that one enemy. So there's more of that too. There's more involved dungeons with more encounters, puzzles you have to solve, things like that. So there's a lot going on to this game, and my favorite thing about it is just how versatile and simple the system is. So the mechanisms of the game are there and they're interesting, but they kind of get out of your way and just let you focus on exploring this world, focus on the narrative, following that story, and focus on just really, exploring different options, right? Everything in the game has a number. Everything on the map has a number, and everything on your character sheet has a number, and you can basically combine any of those two numbers, right? You can combine any number on your character sheet with any number on the map in order to see what happens. There are some limitations, like you can't, shoot pebbles at your granny. You can't use for example, you're going to get more of those topics, right? So you had, what do they call them? Prompts? Yeah, you're going to get those prompts, basically conversation prompts. You start out with the hello prompt, which is the number 2. So you can use that on any NPC, just say hello to them. But as you do things, right? So like, let's just say you go down into that cellar and you investigate that one number that we kind of stopped before we investigated it. let's say you find something strange and mysterious in the cellar. That could give you a prompt that now you can go around to any NPC you want, and you can use that prompt number combined with the NPC's number to see what they have to say about that mysterious thing you discovered in the cellar, right? Some people might know nothing about it, and some people might be like, oh yeah, I heard a crazy story about that once, and they give you some important clue to continuing the game. So you can use any prompt on any NPC. You can see what anyone has to say about anything that you are discovering as you go along. And any item you pick up has a number, so you can see like, okay, what happens if I offer this muffin to this character? Will they give me something in exchange? Or, you know, there's this girl and she's depressed over something. If I bring her flowers, will that cheer her up? And now she has something useful to say to me, or, you know, right? Just different things like that. And then once you get kind of like out of the town and more into the wild, into the dungeons, it gets more interesting with like, you know, here's this encounter I have to get past. How do I deal with that? Like you saw just there in the cellar, you have those nibblers, and it's like I can shoot rocks at them all day and it won't do anything until I use that muffin to get them all up together in one clump and then shoot them. So you have to kind of puzzle these things out and figure out what you have in your inventory that'll help you to deal with these different encounters. And it's all in sort of, I don't want to say like real world logic, because it feels to me more like a video game logic. But, you know, if you've played these types of like fantasy adventure video games, like Legend of Zelda, stuff like that, then you can kind of sort of reason through like, okay, what could I try here that might make sense, that might accomplish something? And if anything you can think of to try, you can try, basically, right? So that's what is really intriguing about this game. And again, the artwork is beautiful. You saw that in the maps there. Like I said, I've seen a little bit more of the maps than what was in this demo, and it's all really good. Okay, this was just a small taste of how good the artwork is in this game. The theme really comes through. There's narrative. You got a little bit of that narrative as I was just reading through some of the entries, but there's longer segments of narrative. Even in the demo, there's like an intro segment that kind of explains you had this dream and you woke up from it, etc. But in the full version of the game, there's a lot more narrative than that. And I understand, though I haven't seen it yet, is that some of that narrative, like the big chunks of narrative, are even going to be in like kind of like a comic book style. So that'll be cool, because again, the artwork is really nice. So bringing that artwork and tying it in with the narrative there will be cool as well. If any of this looked interesting to you at all, I encourage you to check out this game. There's a preview page for it right now on GameFound, I'm sure. And the GameFound campaign, the funding campaign, is going to begin around the end of January. So definitely check in on it then to see if this is something you want to back. Links to that will be in the description to this video if you want to check that out. My name was Nathan. Been watching Nice at Dice. Thank you so much for watching, and you enjoy the rest of your day.